Hi, everybody. This is Kathy L. Murphy, looking like I've just arrived from heaven. I've got these weird lights coming in from somewhere. It's just like right at sunset. But I'm reporting from my little cabin in the woods, Murphy's Law. And tonight I have my 2023 co-host for our girlfriend weekend that we had in Amelia Island, author Kacey Kowars, and he is here, and he's going to briefly, tell us a little bit about what's happening with his book, Chasing the Queen's Gambit, which was just launched. So, Kacey, tell everybody about it, and then we're going to introduce ourselves.
Great. Can everybody see me? Because I can see everybody else. Kathy, I have your blue feather. And
Oh, your blue feather, Kathy Ramsby.
yeah,
Thank you,
on my
Kacey.
writing desk, I keep certain mementos and certain things. It's a bizarre collection, eclectic.
I wouldn't have missed tonight for the world.
Yeah. So that meant a lot to me when you gave everybody that blue feathers, and I remember the story behind it. So, but yeah, first of all, thanks to everybody for doing this, and I look forward to hearing all of your stories as well. But yeah, Kathy, we were talking, and she told me I was supposed to. I'm scheduled in October. And so really the last time I saw everyone, I was really finishing my book, and I kept writing it up pretty much through April because the things kept changing with Walter Tevis. The Queen's Gambit kept maintained a popularity. Chess.com kept getting more popular. And then all of a sudden you drop this artificial intelligence, all of the things that are going on in that, with the themes that Tevis wrote about, The Man Who Fell to Earth, in a novel he wrote called The Steps of the Sun. And I eventually had to draw a line in the sand and just say, my wife helped me with that, saying, you need to finish this story, because I've been working on it for 35 years, and really the last couple years have devoted a lot of time to it. And I didn't want somebody else to come along and scoop me with kind of a second-rate biography just to take advantage of Tevis's popularity right now. So I felt like I had a goal line that I wanted to hit. And because I wanted it, the timing all came together, but it was when I finally finished it, after 35 years of working on it. I can't even begin. I'm looking for my copy here.
Yeah, I thought it was just 35 years. Good Lord. Yeah.
And the funny thing is,
higher.
Okay. I saw this picture about 2.5 years ago when I was up at PBS, doing a documentary for PBS in Kentucky. And I saw that picture sitting on the desk that they were using in this PBS documentary. And I looked at the picture and I said, that's going to be the cover of the book. Because when I first started writing this biography, really the first title was In Search of Fast Eddie Felson. Okay. This would have been back in the 90s with The Color of Money with Paul Newman and The Hustler with Paul Newman. So I started writing this book so long ago that I knew both of Walter Tevis's wives very well. We never talked about The Queen's Gambit. Okay. The Queen's Gambit was not a successful novel for Walter Tevis in 1983. And so I had written a lot of this book many years ago, but then the whole theme changed when people went from, I would talk to people and they say, yeah, I've heard of The Man Who Fell to Earth. I've heard of The Hustler. I've watched The Color of Money. But The Queen's Gambit just took it to a whole different level of popularity. And there's a whole generation of readers really that, for example, I worked with Walter's daughter to get this book published, to make sure everything was accurate, and I had her approval and all those kind of things. And she told me that her kids really, they weren't even aware of The Hustler. They were so young. It was a different generation. If they would have watched the movie, she would say, your grandfather, wrote this, but he died in 1984. So there was so much time that went by that there never really was a lot of interest in Walter Tevis. And until the Queen's Gambit. And so then when the Queen's Gambit hit, I mean, you guys are writers, you understand there's a certain amount of luck that's involved in anything. And yes, I mean, I know I did all the hard work and I did all of the things, and, you know, luck is when opportunity meets chance, or all those cliches. But I will tell you that when I watched the Queen's Gambit, when I watched the 10 hours a couple of years ago, I looked at my wife and I said, my life's going to change.
Yeah.
Because the series was so good. And so I had a book contract within 30 days of the documentary being released. And that I ended up not going with that publisher, but the interest in the book was particularly after people watched the documentary, there was a great deal of interest in Tevis's life. But at the same time, I know the way the world is, and in 2 years from now, people might not remember Walter Tevis again if one of his other shows doesn't get adapted to the big screen. So it was weird after sitting on a project for 35 years to all of a sudden realize, boy, I've got to turn this around and get it done. But it was one of the great joys of my life, being able to actually finish it. And I retired from teaching the exact time this happened. So it was kind of like almost ordained that this was supposed to happen. So, but anyway, that's kind of where I'm at in a nutshell now. I published it about 30 days ago, and I'm real pleased with the reception it's getting. I'm starting to sign up. I'm starting to commit to some book signings this fall. And I'm going to be, the nice thing about this book is it's different than a novel, is that this is the first biography on Tevis. So I don't feel like I have a window of the popularity of a novel. I think it has a little longer shelf life, if you will, because it's the first biography. Mm-hmm. And so, but it's, I never thought I'd finish it. I never thought I would get the opportunity to finish it. And all the stuff that's happening now is great. It really is. I thoroughly enjoy it. I think the thing I'm happiest about is that Walter Tevis's story is finally being told, you know, so that's enough out of me.
No, I was just going to say, last night I was watching a show on Netflix and called Vida. Uh-huh. And they were talking about the mother had died, and this neighbor woman said, you know, the thing about you die 3 times. And I'm going, what? You know, when you die, then when you have the service, and then the last person that remembers you, when they're gone, then you're truly gone. Mm-hmm. And I thought about that, and I thought, isn't that interesting? Because, you know, we look at people that still stay relevant in popularity, like Marilyn Monroe and James Dean and Elvis Presley and Michael Jackson, all these different people. But authors, it's, you know, you've got to have a really big push in some way for people to remember you through hundreds of years. So thank God you did this, because you're the one that told me that Mockingbird is coming out as a film. So I made it a bonus pick, because if you haven't read any of his books, in fact, my friend Candy Clark played in The Man Who Fell with Earth, you know, and we became friends because she saw one of my art pieces sold to one of my authors in California. And it's hard to believe that, you know, a lot of kids today don't even know The Man Who Fell from Earth with David Bowie. I watched it and I was literally shocked that I had, first of all, I'd never seen it because it was in my day, but I was in college at the time and I didn't have a whole lot of money to go to the movies. So thank you for doing this. And for people who don't know about Kacey did this unique thing. He would interview really famous literary and remarkable authors, and you have actually interviewed so many of them, and a lot of them, you know, have gone from this world, and you did their audible history. Mm-hmm. So you wrote 2 books, A Celebration of Words, about those stories. Tell everybody a little bit about your first author that you did with this and that story.
Yeah, thank you, Kathy. And it's Kathy was kind enough to write the introduction to the 2 books. I wrote A Celebration of Words, and then in a fit of creative Malaise, the second book, is another celebration of words. Okay, so, but I actually wrote them as textbooks, really. I was teaching a class called AP English Language and Composition. I taught that at the same school for 15 years, and I just retired a year and a half ago from that. And so I was doing all of these interviews, and what really happened was I kind of bet a couple good horses. I started this over 20 years ago. My first guest I had was Andre Dubus III. I was a friend of his father's, and Andre had written House of Sand and Fog, which Oprah had picked for one of her books. And so Andre was my first guest 20 years ago. And what's cool is in March of this year, I'm going to have a 20th anniversary show for the Kacey Kowars show, and Andre Dubus III is going to be my guest. He was my first guest, my guest after 7 years, and he'll be my guest after 20 years. I just love the Dubus family and how they write. But really, it was Michael Conley, I think, that put me on the map a little bit. Michael Conley, James Lee Burke, Jeanette Walls. And I met Jeanette Walls at the Girlfriend Weekend in 2006. Kathy asked me if I wanted to interview her. And that interview's been listened to in high school and college classrooms all over the world now. I never made a penny from it. Nobody ever asked me if they could use it, but they do. And that's perfectly fine. I love it. That's what I want. That's why I wrote this book, Chasing the Queen's Gambit. 20 years from now, when a student watches one of Tevis's films or watches the Queen's Gambit, I want there to be an accurate biography of him, because that became a passion for me. And I literally, the last couple of weeks as I was finishing it, I didn't even like to leave the house that much. I thought, I don't want to get in a car accident and not be able to upload this document, or I don't want to die 3 days before. And I live in Orlando, Florida, where the traffic is insane. Okay, so I literally for a couple of days, but that's how protective I felt about it. But so I documented. I interviewed Michael Conley 8 times over a period of 10 or 12 years. All of the interviews about 45 minutes long. I've interviewed James Lee Burke, I don't know, 10 times. David Baldacci, a lot of, but then I also tried to work in newer authors. An author I remember, Luis Alberto Urrea, wrote The Hummingbird's Daughter. And
Can
I
you
think,
believe this?
I'm sorry?
It's amazing. I said, can
Yes.
you believe all these authors he's
But
interviewed?
Luis, I was one of the first people to interview Luis, and he was driving in a car in Arizona going across the desert, and we were talking in Spanish half the time. But Luis was someone who I read The Hummingbird's Daughter, and I said, I've got to talk to this guy. But that was a long time ago. So I tried to bring along more literary writers, and I even got so radical as to interview poets. Okay, so I knew I was never going to make any money at that. Okay, but I had the blessing of interviewing Anthony Hecht in 2004, about 2 months before he died, and he read 4 of his poems. And to my knowledge, it's for 2 of the poems, it's the only time they've ever been recorded. So I learned, so I tried to bring a nice mix in, but I also knew I had to have the best sellers to try to get people to tune in on a regular basis. But Michael Conley, he ended up, after I interviewed him 10 years ago, Michael drove over from Tampa and taught all my classes at my high school for a day.
Can you believe that? That's
Yeah.
amazing.
He's as nice a guy, and his success with the Lincoln Lawyer and Bosch has just exceeded anything I think he ever could have dreamed of. So, and then Kathy really was always encouraging me, because I just kept doing these interviews, and she said, you need to write it down. You need to transcribe these. And so another celebration of words in particular came out. I wanted my students to have a book they could read, and it wasn't how I wrote. It was about how Michael Conley wrote. It was about how Jeanette Walls wrote. It was about how James Lee Burke wrote. I took myself out of the equation. And I found, particularly with James Lee Burke, when I would bite my tongue, I put my tongue between my teeth, bite down on it, because if I would wait long enough, he would tell me this amazing story that took place in Louisiana, and I'd be like almost biting my tongue off. And he would say, like, I remember during Hurricane Katrina, good Lord, he and I almost got in trouble for that, because he just let it all hang out in an interview we were doing about how they weren't doing anything in Louisiana. He was on fire. And but so I started transcribing those. And then, so another celebration of words really is me taking the best of interviews I had with Conley, James Lee Burke, Horton Foote, I met a couple times, and put those together so that people could, my students really could read to learn about how to write fiction. Because as a teacher, I found there were not a lot of good textbooks on how to write fiction. And the ones I had in my cabinet were about 38 years old. So, and I was fortunate I had an administration that backed that and College Board approved it. So it was fine. So that's where another celebration, and that might have been my last book had The Queen's Gambit not been turned into a Netflix series. So
Have you
but that-
had some authors, Kacey, that have not made it into the book yet? That you've done some interviews?
Oh yeah. I have finished essays for the next book with Tim O'Brien, Lee Child, David Baldacci, and one or two more. So yeah, I've already written 3 that I've never even published, because when I was teaching, I didn't have time to market or do anything. So I just kept writing, and because I was teaching, 2 years ago, I had 81 AP Lang students and 36 honor students. So there's not a lot of time left at the end of the day to work on my own stuff.
Well, you've always been one of my literacy heroes, because what you're doing, nobody else is doing. I mean, there's a lot of people interviewing them for television, short little marketing bits, but you're doing in-depth interviews with authors who have left their mark in literature. And I commend you for everything you're doing. And I'm so happy that you were able to come here tonight. We just talked about this yesterday because the author I was trying to get to come, I couldn't reach him. So it just worked out serendipitous. But I cannot thank you enough, and for hosting last year, and for all you really are doing. Kacey actually interviewed me at the Pat Conroy Low Country Book Club convention, which was really a big honor for me to be interviewed by Kacey, because I'm just a book person, I'm just promoting authors, and I just thought that was one of the highlights of my life. But I want you to continue to do so. I mean, we've got Lisa C. coming, who's we've got amazing authors coming this year that would be perfect for you to interview if you would like to. I'll keep you posted. But we are headed into fall, and I have pretty much almost got my entire list done. And Kacey's book will be our October book of the month, so you have plenty of time to read it. And what I'm going to do this year is, as I'm notifying everybody that I'm picking them, I'm also want to be this on record that you can go ahead and announce this year that you're a 2024 book club selection. I haven't broke it down to which category you're in, but you can say that, and I will send you the stamp if I've selected you, because it's getting harder and harder for us to sell all of your books. I mean, even with Kacey's Hot Topic and The Queen's Gambit, unless they know about it. So we're going to work on promoting your books really early this year, because I'm not able to sell books at a Zoom conference. But the wonderful thing about the Zoom conference is I can bring people in internationally, and I am. I've got a lot of authors coming from out of the country and book club members. So I'm hoping everybody will get signed up today. Jeffrey is here tonight. Jeffrey, say hi to everybody.
Hi, everybody. Thank you, Kathy.
Jeffrey's going to be my co-host, and I just talked to him too, because with everything that's going on with artificial intelligence, he had gone to the London Book Festival, and it was quite a panel you went to. So we're going to have a big conversation about this. I'm totally against it because they basically take the content of all the authors' books that are out there, the best, they put it into their computer system, and they spit out self-generated books in every genre. And I think you told me there were how many genres they read from?
There were at that point, and this was in March or April, and ChatGPT had just came out like a month before. It exploded on the scene, and already there were 770 books on Amazon authored by ChatGPT.
Wow.
It's just, you
So it's,
guys, we,
the number's probably 5,000 now. Now,
oh, and
they're not good and they're not, million sellers, but they're out there and they are going to suck up a lot of air. And we have a lot to talk about, Kathy. Let's just put it that way.
yeah, we're going to have a lot to talk about. And so I've been sharing things that I'm reading about it. And one of our authors, Molly Crabapple, posted a thing. She goes, all the material they're using to generate these books is stolen, basically. It's copyrighted material. They're taking it, putting it in. The wildest thing about it is when they print it out, it's completely edited and grammar and everything is done. So they just print it on demand. No author. They can just pump them out and do it very, very cheaply. But we are all of you out here, you are the talent. And I think at some point I may call all my authors and say, it's time to strike, just like the writers are doing for these, these television shows that are not getting any residual. Suits is one of my favorite shows that I've watched on Netflix, and the authors barely get the people who wrote the shows get like maybe $3,000 in an episode, where they're making literally, a lot of money off of these shows on Netflix, and they're each getting a 3,000. It's just so, a lot of my author friends are picketing. Yeah.
Kathy, can I just, it's even more invidious than it takes all this content and spits it out in its own form. I had something happen, and this goes back 2 years. So this isn't something
No.
that just happened. This has sort of been bubbling under the surface for a while. 2 years ago, I had written a piece for Writer's Digest about my writing process. And the basic gist of it is write every day and have a system. And one day I was looking for it online. I didn't have it right with me on the computer. So I said, I'll just do a Google search and find it. I found a very similar piece with the same content, written by some, Russian, it was obviously a fake person, fake everything. But it appeared on a clickbait website, and it was my essay, but it was weirdly sort of paraphrased and rewritten by the computer, so that it wasn't, there was no copyright violation. You could look at mine and look at this and say, well, they didn't steal it, but they did.
They did.
But and so it's way more invidious than even just, cutting and pasting. It's terrible.
Well, as someone who's tried to have their brand stolen so many times, I can't even tell you. I have to have an attorney. I actually had an author call me and ask me how to market her book. And I gave her specific, and she took notes. And then it wasn't within a month, she took what I gave her and wrote an article and sold it to all these magazines, and was posting that she had done a marketing story on. And I thought, basically, I've had this happen so many times. Needless to say, she won't be selected again. But you guys, if there's nothing wrong being inspired by an author in the ways they're doing marketing and everything, but you don't take their words and just rearrange them and sell them as your own. And we'll have that conversation. But, I'm so glad Kacey got his book out, because I'm sure once this comes out, somebody's going to really try to get, but he had the relationship with the family, and the story behind the story is even amazing, because Kacey's told all of these to me. So you guys have now plenty of time to read the book before October. It's fascinating, and I'm sure it'll get picked up from course adoption for film schools or colleges. It's really great. And all of you out that are here tonight that are authors or aspiring authors, I am here for you. I'm going back to college this fall. I found out that I've been offered a graduate assistant program, which was really thrilled because I get paid through grant money to do this. But I found out it's 5 days a week. So I'm trying to get my program done for Girlfriend Weekend, get everybody signed up, and get everybody notified before I start back to school next week. So I'm probably not going to get it completely done, but there's a lot of work to putting together this conference. And again, the most disconcerting thing for me is when I work all on year on this, I put out the list, and then the book clubs contact the authors and ask them to come, which is fine, except often what happens if they're a big name author, they go, well, I've already gone to your book club chapter here, so I'm not coming to Girlfriend Weekend. So for everybody who's listening to this out there, before you ask an author in that I've worked so hard to get to come to my Girlfriend Weekend, please let me know, because I want you to have that experience, but it also jeopardizes whether they sign on to come to our weekend too. So I've had it backfire on me now several times where people said they'd come and they said, well, I went to your big chapters so-and-so here, so I think that's it for me this year. But when you come to our conference, everybody gets to hear you, and they're all recorded, and they will all go up on the YouTube channel, which is free. So please subscribe. I need 1,000 members to help my authors in a bigger way. And I don't even have, I think, just a little over 200, and we have thousands of members. So please sign up. Kacey and Jeffrey, Kacey was my co-host last year. Jeffrey will be my co-host for 2024. Tonight is our meet and greet. And so I told everybody bring their wine, but I'm a coffee drinker. I would like to just go down the list and just starting with Kacey. Kacey, just give a little background. We've got a little bit on you, but is there anything you want to add about you're in Orlando, Florida? And we've known each other since 2000, met in person in 2006. I knew you before that. But is there anything else you want to share about your books and where they can get them and all that?
Well, I think I just really like to thank Kathy for everything she does for so many writers. And so, Kathy, what you do is greatly appreciated, and it's certainly been important to me for over 20 years. So, I think that, we're all in this together as writers and as creative people. And so I don't view, people as competition or anything like that. I think it's a win-win when we read other books. So I'm just thrilled to be here, and that's enough out of me tonight.
Great. Well, you're just a fantastic human being. Congratulations on your retirement, but I have the
Thank you.
feeling you're going to be real busy with this book. So, and I encourage all of the book club chapters to, Kacey will be at Girlfriend Weekend, but he really needs to get the word out there. All my authors really do. So the more you share the posts from tonight on YouTube, the more you get people to subscribe. Everybody thinks it helps me. No, it's helping the authors, because I'm trying to get their books in the hands of readers everywhere. And I've had great success with our authors on getting their books. I mean, nobody knew who Jeanette Walls was when I picked her, or Jamie Ford, or Lisa Wingate. And now look where those people are. So thank you, Kacey. I just can't say enough about you. We'll be back with you in October. And now I'm going to move on. I'm just going down my list listed here. Jeffrey is going to be my co-host. He's also a Floridian author. So tell us a little bit about your books and your story, Jeffrey.
Well, I'm in Naples, down the road from Kacey, not too far, but a lot of traffic between here and there. And I too want to thank Kathy. I just ordered Chasing the Queen's Gambit on Kindle while we were all doing this, because I want to read it. And that's an example of how we support each other, because
Right.
I wouldn't have known about it but for Kathy. So my book is One Must Tell the Bees, Abraham Lincoln and the Final Education of Sherlock Holmes. Came out 2 years ago, and it still has life, and it's been a lot of fun. And I am working on the follow-up, which takes Sherlock Holmes to Tibet to meet the Dalai Lama. And I'd love to talk to Kacey offline at some point, because you have a
Sure.
bit of a Tibetan angle in that book. I
Yeah.
saw from your introduction. So,
Yeah.
but we're all, like Kacey said, we're all connected. And thank you, Kathy.
You're welcome. Thank you. And we're looking forward to that next book. Be sure and get me a copy. And Jeffrey will be co-hosting, and we'll be doing this AI thing. So sign up today. Next up is Janet Oakley. Now, Janet, did you recover from the wasp bites?
I'm much better. It's all done. It bit me on top of the foot. So
Oh,
it was all
it itched like
just-
crazy.
finally sweeping the porch, and I got 3 of them attack me. So I'm
Yeah.
I'm killing them right now. So I got a couple of
So
yellow
sorry.
jacket things to get rid of them, but it's bad. But I'm fine now. So
Well, we're so glad. And I hope you got the video of my grandson.
I
finally
did.
got
Thank
to see
you.
him, and he is learning she brought back a little board book, lift a flap kind of book on Norwegian. And my daughter, they're really into languages. So he's already learning. I couldn't even pronounce what they were learning, but he loved it. So thank you so very much for that gift. And tell everybody about you and where you are and your book club and everything.
Well, I'm in Bellingham, Washington. I'm about 20 minutes south of the BC border. So, and our book club is sort of out there. We don't really meet, but we talk. So we
Yeah.
can Zoom and, what are you reading and stuff like that, and try to support. But anyway, I write about Norway and World War II, and I just finished Kathy Grizzling Code. I'm waiting for the paperback to be put together so I can send it to you.
Yay!
But I'm really excited. It's already long listed for the Godey from Chanticleer book reviews. So it's starting on its way. And I just I went to Shetland Noir in Shetland with Anne Cleves and all these amazing UK crime writers. And my novel Jussing Affair, which is about the resistance in Norway in World War II, was selected. And it was so much fun because it's sort of like, and talk about writing. I started researching that 30 years ago.
Good.
So I'm now 30 years into learning Norwegian, which I didn't know at all, but we have so many Norwegians that live in my area. I'm now a member of the Sons of Norway and the Sons and Daughters of Norway. But Shetland was an amazing experience because I finally got to see the places I write about. And one of them was Lunevaux. So I met the son of the man who worked on the Shetland bus. And what this was, it was a World War II SOE project where fishing boats, because the Norwegians went back and forth between Scotland all the time. And so they were sending over refugees from Norway during the German occupation, and then they would come back with agents. And so I was invited to go to a private house at Lunevaux where it first started. It was with the son of the man who worked on the boats. He's 80 years old. And so I was going to say, I was so excited you mentioned Alberto, because I won a scholarship to Fish Trap. I think that was 2011. And honestly, I didn't know anything about him, but I thought it's time to broaden my horizons and study from someone who is Hispanic. And so I always tell people, I got my code to put in for my scholarship, and I hit the button. And first, it's a fish, by the way. You hit the fish and nothing happens. So I hit it again. Finally, I was in. I put the code in, and I sort of sat back. It filled up in 10 minutes. I went like, who the heck is this author? So I spent a whole week with him in Cabin 20. He's a poet, but the thing that he kept talking about was about his mother. And he just published his book, Goodnight, Irene. And I was so intrigued by that because he said, he's been interviewed quite a bit now, saying, he never appreciated what his mother did. She was a donut dolly sent over to France and followed the troops. as they once they landed in Normandy, they she followed them. It's a wonderful book. My book club's going to read that. But
Cool.
that was an amazing experience to be with him. And I've always, I also know Jamie Ford too, because he was also there that same weekend with his children and his wife. So I've got to know him both girlfriend weekend and then when he's come here to Bellingham. So it's a great writing life, and I have found, I found a niche. No one's really writing about Norway in World War II. And so it's wonderful to be accepted by Norwegian Americans and Norwegians when I go to museums that I think I know what I'm talking about now. So it's taken a few years. And I'm intrigued too, Kacey, that you taught high school, correct?
Correct.
That's wonderful. Yeah,
Last 15 years.
I worked with the Bellingham School District out in the woods for 11 years, did pioneers with third graders and eighth graders, building things, making butter and stuff like that. It was one of the highlights. And then I was a museum educator after that. But education, I feel really strongly about, and I'll put a pitch in too. I have friends on Maui, and the Hawaii State Teachers Association has a website where anybody can contribute to that disaster. They lost 4 schools, 3,000 kids without displaced, and 6 teachers, in addition to losing their entire classrooms, also lost their homes. So it's up there now. And so I'm going to encourage people to, how hard it is to be a teacher. It's hard work. I think I was always an enrichment teacher, not a classroom teacher. And I admire people that are in the classroom.
Thank you.
Yeah. Teachers and librarians, they're everything, right?
Right. And they
Everything.
lost their library. Their public library was burnt to the ground. So that's another help with them.
Our author, Jim Markham, and his wife, Cheryl, are out there. Remember the Big Lucky?
That's
And
right.
they're doing fine, but it was, a little scary. There's 99 people that died now, something like that. Yeah, it's sad. It's really sad.
I watch actually Hawaii News Now live. So I've listened in on all the conferences with the governor and all the people. And the thing that they're trying to discourage people from going in, there's nothing left. And they're telling them don't step, because they only have 3 people out of the 99 they've been able to identify with fingerprints. So he was saying, don't come in and they're worried there's a new hurricane coming. And they're worried that all the things will be washed away. So it's all DNA on dust, essentially. Dust and ash. So
I'm so sorry. It's one of my favorite places I've ever gone. So
I love it there too.
Mhm. All right. Well,
right.
I'm going down the list of everybody that is here. I'm looking to see who's next. Kathy Ramsberger. Kathy, tell us what's going on with you.
Hi, everybody. Kacey, I don't have my feather here, but I have with this bird, everybody that was there. So my book's doing really well. It came out late June. I just had an absolutely wonderful interview today with a man who's both an actor and he started his own show, a weekend show, Ed Kalegi, and he was one of the best interviewers. He read my book, and that's such
Thank goodness.
Kacey probably knows this. If you don't read the book, how can you talk about the book? I always read anybody I interview, and that's why I don't interview more than once a month. And speaking of the podcast, I'm talking to Rebecca Copeland tomorrow. I don't only do Pulpwood Queens and Timber Guys, but I try to get as many of you guys in there as possible. I've had a lot of people that I've pitched say that they would like me on their podcast. So I think that's kind of my way of marketing the book. I've got a live event on Saturday, which is one reason I don't have my feathers. And I always told Kathy, and thank you, Kathy, from the bottom of my heart for that launch party, the night it came out. That just, I'll never forget that. But I've always told her if I can get this book out, it's going to catch on because it's time. It's for anybody that I know, everybody here knows this, but it's called 1,000 Flying Things. And it's about global connection, really. That's what it's about. And about taking care of children no matter what. And it's also about not believing that our perspective is the only perspective.
That's right.
I worked as a humanitarian for 25 years, and so a lot of those stories have been fictionalized. I had reams and reams of paper from interviews, and I could put in a quote or a 15-second soundbite, and now these people are alive on the page, and I'm really proud of that. And I think that's about it. Everything's really good.
You know, I had that box I painted, which took me longer than any painting I think I've ever done, popped up showing the process. And I thought, oh my gosh, Kathy Ramsberg has, I think you have maybe 2 of my boxes
I
now.
have 2 of your boxes. There's one. Hold on a minute. Let me get my video to work.
I'm telling you, half the people here have my paintings. It is the biggest thrill of my life to know that I'm in these.
There's my real book cover for anybody that hasn't seen it.
Beautiful.
And I don't have the other one upstairs, it's downstairs. But here's the one you gave me.
Nice.
Yeah, that's really neat. And you got the one at Girlfriend Weekend, so that was really sweet. And Jeffrey has one of my paintings, and Suzanne has one of my paintings, and somebody's going to win a painting tonight because I said, everybody better come because I've got a lot of paintings that are taking up too much space, and I just haven't been able to get in the galleries. And thank you for showing it. Oh my gosh. Thank you, Jeffrey.
Isn't that
That's
beautiful?
one of my favorite it's so different from anything I've ever done before, and I love it. Thank you for having it in your home there. But
I
in
feel like
Naples,
Georgia O'Keeffe, because after you become well known, after you get this MFA, we're going to be able to say, I've got one of her originals.
well, hopefully I'll continue to get better and better. I'm trying to learn everything I can. So thank you for all you guys' support, and thank you for your 2 wonderful books that have both been Pulpwood Queen Book Club selections. I try to pick global books set in the United States, anywhere in the world, that tell a story that hasn't been told before in a perspective I haven't heard before. And I was going to tell you, Jeffrey, that my friend Daniel Olivas, who's an attorney out in California, has a new book on a Mexican Frankenstein story. I can't hardly wait to read it. It's coming soon. He wrote the How to Date a Flying Mexican, which was one of my favorite reads this year. And I followed him. I picked Devil Talk. I picked lots of his books, but I've always loved international books and stories that are set in places that I've always wanted to know about or go. So, and I will continue to, that's my thing, because nobody is really doing what I'm doing. And there's a lot of book clubs out there and a lot run by a lot of famous people, but they all tend to pick the books that are pushed the most by the major publishing houses. Have you noticed? So I try to find the authors that haven't been discovered in a big way so we can help them, give them a little push. I'm not taking any credit for their success because their work is their success. But anyway, thank you so much. And next we have Suzanne Kamada, who is coming all the way from Japan. I say this every time, but it just blows my mind how far away you come. And I'm just thrilled that you're here tonight. Have you sent me a new book?
I sent you two books via the A place, Amazon, and I got a message that they were returned to Amazon. For some reason, they couldn't deliver them.
Did you send them to a post office box?
Probably.
That I closed my post office box at the time of COVID because I
Oh,
couldn't get to the box. So it's my
okay.
home address, and it's on my website. I'll send it to you. But
All right, I'll try again. I
I
thought
mean,
maybe
you've got
you thought
how
you'd,
many books out now or in a compilation of stories? How many books this year?
oh, this year, nothing.
Well, I
But,
think you've
but
got,
totally maybe like, including books for literacy learners, I think maybe I'm up to about 14 or 15.
it's
But
incredible.
some are like really, really, they're really, really short too. And
Well, that's okay. I love those too, because sometimes we need something that's not the Covenant of Water by Abraham
yeah,
Verghese,
true.
because that is a tome. But your writing is incredible. And what is amazing for people that don't know this, you went to graduate school with another one of my authors who's in Dallas,
I did Will Clark, yeah.
Will, Will Clark, and
He was in at least 2 of my classes, and I always looked forward to his writing because he was just
he's out
so
there.
innovative and just so out there, right?
Yeah,
If you were in a class with,
he actually works for an advertising agency in Dallas, and he's got another Super Bowl commercial. So he's been quite busy. His wife, by the way, runs the Arts and Letters program at the Dallas Morning Museum of Art. And I was
oh,
just there at one of their shows. They have Alice Hoffman tomorrow. They've got Barbara Kingsolver. They've got James McBride. They've got all these authors that are on my list last year and this year coming, Zadie Smith. And I'm just going, man, I hope I can work it into my schedule. I don't know with all that I've got going on with school, but they're a real book family. So all these connections, and I love it when you guys become friends and everything. And now we're on to Emily Conroy, who is here back again with her second meeting. Emily is wanting to start a chapter in Portland. And she's also, she's got some degrees and it's interesting. Share with us your story, Emily.
So I have big shoes to fill, obviously, with a dad named Pat Conroy. So it's huge that I'm here and that we're all connected.
Yep.
I am going to grad school in gastronomy, which is the study of food. My background is in cooking. I'm a great reader and a great eater, and hopefully a great writer. I'm trying to start a book. Well, I'm not trying to start it, but it's been started. I'm trying to do it and grad school applications and move cross country all at once. So
I'm trying to mentor to her too. And she is, you guys, this is something that's really important. She's like me. I sell my art to go to grad school, and she is going to be doing book reviews and blurbs for books. And being a Conroy, writing is just in their veins. So if you're interested in having her do a blurb or do a book review, contact Emily. She's on Facebook. Or how did they get a hold of you, Emily?
they can either get a hold of me on Facebook, or they can go through Kathy, and Kathy can introduce us.
Well, the thing about it is, you guys, I can blurb a book, but the book reviewers, online booksellers will not let me post reviews of my author's books because they think I get paid for doing the reviews. I don't, but Emily needs help going to graduate school. And I said, if you earn it, you'll own it. So first thing I did is send her a book because I want her to do mine, because I haven't sold a book online in a year. So, and it's the first book everybody's supposed to read when they join the book club. So I don't know where they're getting the books or if they're reading it or not, but if you want to know the story of why I do what I do, you need to read the book. And thank you for everybody who has. And Emily, you're brand newbie. You're a newbie. What do you think of all this camaraderie and helping and stuff?
I think it's absolutely great. Portland is a really difficult place to make friends, especially if you're in your late 40s and early 50s and you don't have kids going off to college or grandkids to worry about. So it's nice to find this community. I think I've always sort of known about it. Pat and you go back for years and years and years and years and years. So I've always known about the legendary Kathy Murphy, but I hadn't actually met you. We did connect several years back, but that wasn't the right time for us to meet. And so I think that we were put in this moment to make a lot of stuff, different things happen and move people and change people together.
Well, it's interesting, you know, when I went back to school at 59 to get my BFA in art, it inspired a lot of people to go back to school. I know River Jordan told me she went on for her master's because of it. And I thought, well, River went on for her master's. Why don't I? And then Emily says, well, I'd like to go. How'd you do this? And I told her I got a graduate assistant program. They're actually paying me to go to school, and my tuition is free over 65 in Texas. So that's a pretty cool thing. Check with all the, you know, it's really about helping each other. You know, we're by sharing our stories in this conversation, we can all lift each other up the ladder. You know what I'm saying? Look behind you, see who needs some help. Had a author's little granddaughter that was trying to get into designing clothes, and she didn't know what to do. And I said, well, I'll be glad to mentor you. I've always designed I've got a kimono on that I designed. I said, I'll be glad. She goes, I don't even know what to do. And I said, well, let's learn together. So, you know, it's just helping one another and being supportive. And, you know, and I'm kind of at this point in my life, like Kacey and everybody's saying, is, you know, I'm going to be 67 next, the end of this month, the 27th. And I thought, you know, now it's very important to me that everything that I do have importance. So I thank all of you for coming here tonight, because that means you're fully invested in the program. And I'm hoping everybody who watches this on YouTube will be so inspired. I literally, within the last couple of weeks, have picked up close to 100 new members. Where are you guys? So, yeah. And so I'm sending out emails, I'm posting things, trying to get them to come to the meeting. It's intimidating to come into some place that you don't know anybody, but it's okay. Do you feel any anxiety about this at all now, Emily, after your second time?
No, I didn't feel anxious either after my first time. I felt like I was coming home.
Yay. Well, that's what I want to hear.
No,
So
talking about connections, I don't know if you know that Suzanne and I went to the same college. We went to Kalamazoo College in Michigan.
what?
That's
No.
I got my BA in history. I got my BFA in the University of Hawaii. But when I was in Shetland, I ran into one of Suzanne's friends, Nancy Crack. I only talked for her a little bit, but she was there writing crime.
She's a friend from Japan, actually, not from music college, but we're close friends and we live on the same island.
Oh goodness, yeah. So
crazy. And
she
Jeffrey
joined the Pulpwood Queens. I made her join the Pulpwood Queens.
oh, good, great.
get everybody to join. Jeffrey, tell how we met. This is wild.
Well, we have a mutual friend, Lang Martin Jr., who was a Nashville songwriter.
Right.
And Lang and I met in Rhode Island, where Lang has a summer home, and we have mutual friends, and he loves creativity, and he's so much fun to talk to about creativity. And he wrote a beautiful memoir. And I was publishing One Must Tell the Bees, and I was trying to figure out, should I get it published or should I do it myself? And Lang had done his own beautiful memoir called Permission to Fly. And I said, how did you do this? And so he walked me through it. And then Lang said, you really ought to talk to this woman.
God.
And he told the story of how he had been to this wonderful book club. And I think he went to Texas. I think he went to
Jefferson, Texas. And I met him through through a former music producer, Robert Hicks, who I picked his books, and I met Robert Hicks through Marshall Chapman. I'm telling you, it's just like, it's a smaller world than you think. Yeah. But all the people that are authors, if we all have, I feel like I may be the Kevin Bacon of the literary world. 6 degrees from Kathy Murphy is getting to be kind of funny, because people go, oh, I know you because you picked this author, or my brothers, or, you know, whatever. But it's all about making connections. And that's what sharing our stories does. It helps us have the conversation and understand, walking in somebody else's shoes for a while, or getting lost in a story that's, you know, something we would have never. And the wonderful thing about our book club is you're reading books that aren't familiar to you. You're reading books out probably outside you would never see them if I hadn't picked them. But I'm getting ready, you guys, to post a bunch of them more up that I picked this year. And I'll hopefully get this all together before, within some time through Memorial Weekend. I'll get all of them out there and everybody notified. But I'm very excited that you were all here tonight. And I just like to toast you for, with my coffee cup. I've got my little, you know, my coffee cup. Oh, that water. I like to toast you all for being so supportive. And when I ask any of you that are here tonight to come forward, you're there for me. I really appreciate it. I know who these people are. And every year, I give star awards, at Girlfriend Weekend to people who participate amount, which, speaking of, Sarah Stalmy is really having quite a time, you guys, with her health, and she apologized for not being here. We all need to pray for her because she's having, some issues with her health. And here she just built a brand new dream home, and her and Thor. So shout out to Sarah up, in the Pacific
Sarah's a good
Northwest.
friend. She lives just north of me, so I've known her quite a number of years. Yeah, it's
She's
really
just
shocking.
been the most supportive author, just like all of you. So tonight, what I'd like to do is, there's less than 10 of you, and I have written a number down and circled it. And I want all of you to do so. Write down a number 1 through 10. And then I'll call on you one by one to show you your number, and then I'll show you the number that I picked. And I'm going to be sending you a painting for, this is a great way to reward you for doing this, and also for helping me get a little bit more room in my house, and I'm cleaning out my gallery. So has everybody written down a number on a piece of paper? And show them. We'll start with Kacey. Have you got a number for me?
Yes, I do. That's a 6.
Okay, 6. Let's see. Next is Jeffrey. What have you got, Jeffrey? What number?
8.
8.
8. Okay. Janet Oakley, have you written a number? Your mutes. You need to unmute. Janet.
3.
It's a 3.
3.
A 3. Okay. Kathy Ramsberger, how about you?
Mine's smaller, but it's still a 3. So you want me to pick another one?
Pick another number.
5. How's that? Did somebody else
5?
do 5?
Okay. Suzanne Kamada?
2.
2. And good. Okay. Emily Conroy, have you picked
Okay,
a
so
number?
everybody's picked my numbers that I keep repicking.
We'll pick
So
a
what
new.
numbers are left? I'm gonna say 1.
Oh, well, guess what? Emily, you're our winner. I wrote down 1. You are
right.
the winner.
Go, Emily.
I have your address. I'm going to be sending you something special. And then when you
Thank
get it, you can
you.
share it with everybody. But I think I'm going to be doing this for a while. It may not always be a painting. It may be one of my pillows or trays or something that I create, but I'm going to do this for a while. So more incentive to show up for the book club meetings for everybody out on YouTube. If you want to win, you got to be present. You got to participate. So yay. So next week we'll be back on track for our Tuesday night book club meeting. And I just cannot thank you enough for your support and for getting everything going. Just bear with me. I still haven't gotten the internet fixed here at my house. It's better, but I have actually 2 internet set up, and one of them goes in and out. One of them won't even work. So they sent a guy to repair my service when I needed it to have it hooked up, and they don't do both. Can you believe that? So I don't know when I'm going to get this next guy out because I'm going to be over there 5 days a week. Ugh, it's crazy. So thank you all for joining me. I love you all so much. Let's keep talking, keep sharing, and I'll have this up on the Pulpwood Queen channel tomorrow. And literally, I started turning out all the lights. You guys, I don't know why I've got these two. There's no lights behind me
The
on.
UFO.
Kathy, I have a thought.
What is it?
My thought is that maybe there's something on your camera, on your screen, on your computer, and maybe if you just spritz the camera with Windex.
It's clean as can be. I'm telling you, I
Really?
just did that. Yeah, I don't know.
So
This
you
is
need
the
a
light.
you need a 13-year-old around the house. They can fix all this stuff.
I need somebody around the house, but my best friend Heidi is coming in Thursday, and she's just as clueless as I am. She's a college professor, but she's coming in before she goes back to school. So we'll come, get together and see what we can come up with. But I cannot thank you guys for your support. I cannot tell you how excited I am. If anybody wants to know what's coming up next, watch our calendar of events on our website, www.thepulpwoodqueens.com. And if you have any questions, email me at thepulpwoodqueen@gmail.com. And my address is on the Authors Join Here page on the website, the correct home address, because the post office I never go to anymore because it's just since COVID, I think they're going to close it, honest to God. So anyway, just keep in touch. Any questions before we go, everybody? Anybody have anything they want to say?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, well, thank
Thank you.
you.
And best
I
of luck.
will, huh? Oh,
Best of
I'm
luck.
going to need it.
Being
I'm
a
gonna need
wonderful TA, that's a wonderful experience.
Well, I'm going to be staying with my daughter and Tyler while I'm going to school, and my friend Barbara is taking care of my cat. So it's not like I'm going to have to drive back and forth like I did earlier. I'm just going to stay with my daughter over there. So thank you guys for everything. And I love you all. And just keep talking and keep sharing. And we'll see you on down the road. It's all about the story.
Thank you, Kathy.
Good night.
Thank you. You guys are the best. Bye, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.